In the Unresolved Problems segment tonight, campaign rhetoric and the threat of Islamic terrorism. Jay Johnson, the Homeland Security Secretary, delivering a harsh rebuke to Donald Trump and Ted Cruz today about their recent comments on Muslims.
Do you think Ted Cruz's comments were destructive to your efforts?
I believe that inflammatory comments about patrolling and securing Muslim neighborhoods or barring Muslims from entering the country, having an immigration policy based on religion is counterproductive to our homeland security and national security interest.
Joining us now with reaction from Jacksonville, Florida, Nancy Soderberg, who was a Deputy National Security Advisor for President Clinton, and here in studio, Ryan Mauro, a National Security Analyst. Nancy, we'll start with you. You know, the American public generally agrees with Ted Cruz and Donald Trump on these issues. They're at 50%, way higher than the people who disagree, saying that a temporary ban on Muslim travel to the United States is a good idea, and they're at 49% saying that the Muslim neighborhoods should be patrolled and protected.
Well, none of those will keep us safer, and they will feed the narrative that we're anti-Muslim that helps ISIS recruit. What we do need to do is make sure that we are very closely surveying those who would do us harm, which is not the large Muslim neighborhoods here, but it's largely young people going back and forth. And we do a very good job of that. There's a reason that we haven't had terrorist groups here. We need to do a better job of it in Europe, and I think it baffles the mind that they weren't doing this after the Paris attacks. I think they're doing it now. Lastly, we need to get at the safe haven in Iraq and Syria, where ISIS is sitting planning these attacks. But broadly patrolling Muslim communities is just a waste of resources.
Ryan, Nancy says we haven't had terrorist groups here, but do we know that, in fact?
Oh, no, we have them here. We have them here.
Well, I thought you said we haven't had them here. That's what you said. We haven't had terrorist groups here.
No, terrorist attacks. No. I'm saying largely the reason that you're not having the Paris and the Brussels attack here is we're very good at tracking these things, stopping them, and it's easier to do it in Europe. What I'm saying is we shouldn't be diverting resources from tracking the terrorist groups that are here and preventing attacks by broadly surveying a random Muslim community.
Hang in there, Nancy. Hang on. I'm going to bring Ryan. Ryan, is Nancy right that we're doing enough, keeping an eye on the terrorist groups that may be here?
I didn't say we're doing enough. I
don't believe so, because we're still debating whether the Muslim Brotherhood should be labeled as a foreign terrorist organization, because that's being discussed in Congress right now. So we're still having debates about basic points. And as for the issue with Ted Cruz and surveillance, I don't think that he was calling for just patrolling and conducting surveillance on Muslims just for being Muslims. A lot of this outrage over what he said is by people who are reflexively assuming the worst of anything that he's going to say. If you look at the greater issue he's touching upon issues with lack of integration, like you're seeing in Europe, and issues like these radical Islamic villages that are across the United States.
Tell us about those a little bit.
Sure, there's a group named Jamaat al-Fukra that has what they call Islamic villages, where they say in their publications they've implemented Sharia across the United States. Those are areas that, yes, the police should be patrolling because there's a reason to, and I don't think that if you had an interview with Ted Cruz, he'd be saying, yes, conduct surveillance on all Muslims, because that would be wrong and it would be a waste of time.
All right, Nancy, but you had mentioned that we shouldn't be diverting resources from keeping an eye on groups like this, maybe perhaps, and towards a more general policy. Why can't we do both?
Well, first of all, what we're talking about, first of all, Ted Cruz and Donald Trump are targeting blanket Muslim communities, keep all the Muslims out, and survey all the Muslim communities. There is not enough resources to do all of that.
Why not, Nancy? No. That's a statement that I'm going to push back on. What do you mean there are not enough resources? One of the most, if not the most important thing in America is for a president to keep us safe.
What we need to be doing is tracking the communication, shaking the tree, making sure that we're getting every piece of intelligence that can connect the dots on these terrorist groups that are inspired, not necessarily directed by ISIS, that are threatening us today.
Yes, we agree on that.
And we're doing a pretty good job on that.
But why not take it one step further and at least try some of the things that, frankly, the American public is on board with?
Well, first of all, I don't think anybody knows exactly what that means. Where are the Muslim neighborhoods? Why would you be doing that? There are peaceful, loving American citizens that aren't a threat
Nancy,
to us.
We have a guy who's an expert at this. Ryan, where are the Muslim neighborhoods that we need to keep an eye on?
Well, I've got a map They have a headquarters called Islamberg, again run by this group Jamaat al-Fukr. They have a place called Islamville in South Carolina. They said they have 22 of these places across the country and even internationally. So this is an issue we have to talk about. But I will grant the point, though, that ISIS likes anti-Muslim sentiment because in their own propaganda they say they want to provoke anti-Muslim sentiment. But at the same time, when Hillary Clinton was saying that Donald Trump is the #1 recruiter for ISIS, that was exaggerated political rhetoric because when you looked at ISIS's propaganda, Donald Trump was nowhere to be seen at that time.
All right, I got to leave it right there. Nancy and Ryan, thank you very much.